Hello and welcome back. This is another 7th grade math video. And in this video, we're going to be looking at how to add and subtract with rational numbers. And just in case you forgot what a rational number is, it is a positive or negative decimal or fraction. Okay, here is our first one. We're going to take negative 2.3 and we're going to add 1.1. So we kind of want to look at these like they're two separate problems, but kind of put together in one. We're going to look to apply our integers rules as well as apply our rules for adding and subtracting decimals in this case. So if these were whole numbers or just integers, we know that we're adding with the different sign. So that means we're going to keep the sign of the bigger number, and then we're going to subtract the numbers. And if you're a little confused by that, check out some previous videos I've done on adding and subtracting integers. So in this case, 2.3 is bigger than 1.1 and it's negative. So that means we're keeping that negative sign for the answer. Now our next step is actually to subtract those numbers. So I'm going to take 2.3 and subtract 1.1. Whenever you're adding or subtracting decimals, you have to keep them lined up by their place value so that the decimals are all on top of each other. Now I'm going to ignore the negative part for now. All I'm going to do is focus on subtracting 2.3 and 1.1. So 3 minus 1 is 2. I'm going to put a decimal place here for the answer. And 2 minus 1 is 1. So now I'm going to go back and attach that to the negative part that I already decided upon. So our answer here would be negative 1.2. Okay, here's our next one. We're going to take negative 8.4 and we're going to add it to negative 1.6. So going back to those integers rules, when we are adding together two integers of the same sign, what we're doing is we're keeping that sign and then we're going to add the numbers together. Since both of these numbers are negative, we're going to keep that negative sign. So I'm going to go ahead and put a negative sign over here. Our next step is to add the numbers together. So we're going to come over here and do 8.4 plus 1.6. And I have to be careful that the decimals are on top of each other and everything's lined up by place value. Then I'll put a decimal down here for my answer. 6 plus 4 is 10. So I put a 0 here and regroup that 1. Then 1 and 8 and another 1 is 10. So that means our answer to this one, after I attach it up here, would be negative 10. Okay, here's our next one. It's negative 3/10 minus 1/5. I went ahead and rewrote it so that the numerator is right on top of the denominator because that's how I prefer to look at it. So let's use our subtracting integers rules this time. So when we're subtracting integers, we use a method called keep, change, change. That means where we keep the first integer, or in this case, rational number, the same. So I'm going to keep negative 3/10. My first C for change is to change from subtraction to adding. So I'm going to make that a plus and bring it down. And then I'm going to change the sign of the second number. So the second number is 1/5. So I'm going to change that to negative 1/5. Now I can use my adding integers rules. But I don't want to do that yet because when we are adding fractions, they have to have the same denominator. So I'm not quite ready to do that yet. I'm going to have to change these so that they have the same denominator by multiplying this times 2 and this times 2. What that will do is that will keep the negative 3/10 the same, plus negative 1 times 2 is negative 2, and 5 times 2 is 10. So now I can go ahead and use my adding integers rules for these. They're both the same sign, which means we're going to keep that sign and add the numbers. Since they're both negative, we're going to keep that negative. And then negative 3 plus negative 2 is negative 5. Then I'm going to keep that over 10. So I'm going to go ahead and simplify that fraction now by dividing both the top and the bottom by 5, which will give me negative 1/2. So that is our final answer for this one, negative 1/2. Okay, here is our next one. We're going to take negative 7 and we're going to add a negative 4.5 to that. Okay, so let's use our adding integers rules. That means since they're both the same sign, they're both negative, we're going to keep that negative sign and then we're going to add the numbers together. So let's add 7 plus 4.5. Now 7 doesn't have a decimal, so I'm going to go ahead and add it to the end. And maybe I want to put a 0 here just to have everything lined up and filled in. I'm going to put a decimal down here for that answer. 0 plus 5 is 5. and 7 plus 4 is 11. So this answer should be negative 11.5. Okay, here's our last example for today's video. And as you can see, this is a complicated one. This is a challenging one. Negative 2 and 7 tenths minus negative 3. So since it's a subtracting one, we're going to be using keep, change, change. So I'm going to keep negative 2 and 7 tenths the same. I'm changing from subtraction to adding. And then I'm changing the sign of the second number. So that's going to go from being negative 3 to positive 3. And that's a calculation I'm going to need to do. Okay, so now we have we can use these adding integers rules. We have two different signs. We have a positive and we have a negative. So that rule is you keep the sign of the bigger number. Well, 3 is bigger than 2 and 7 tenths, and it's positive, so that means our answer is going to be positive. So I can put a little plus there just to remind myself and take it away at the end if I want to. Now what I have to do is subtract the numbers. That's the second part of this rule. So I'm going to actually be doing 3 minus 2 and 7 tenths. Okay, now 3 doesn't have a fraction. That's like having 0 tenths. So what I need to do is give it some tenths that I can take away from, so I can do fractions first. I'm going to change it so that it says 2 and 10 over 10. So I took one whole away from the 3, and I gave one whole split up into tenths to the fraction. So this is 2 and 10 tenths minus 2 and 7 tenths. So if I take 7 tenths away from 10 tenths, that leaves me with 3 tenths. And 2 minus 2 is 0. So your final answer here is just 3 tenths, and we already decided that it was positive. So your final answer here is just going to be 3 tenths. All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you in another video soon.